members of the city's budget committee. They're speaking as consultations continue today. We are now hearing from the city's police chief, Myron Demkiw. Let's listen in live.
The Toronto Police Service Board approved budget.
You talked about the impacts that that rate of increase would have on hiring. So just tell us a little bit about what that would mean in future years for staffing and retention at the service.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that question. I think it's important to recognize that $20 million that the board approved is effectively our capacity to continue to staff for our essential core service delivery. Compromising that number or reducing that number, I said on December 19th, and I said here today, creates an unacceptable risk to us in our ability to get towards core service delivery in a more effective way, and that's because we won't be able to hire and staff. And staffing in the policing context, you have to remember, it takes 6 months for a police officer to walk through our door and become trained to then continuing their development on the road with supervisors and coach officers. And the reality is, over long term, this impacts our ability to staff other critical vacancies, such as certain specialized functions and investigative functions. So the ripple effect from whatever decisions are made here are very, very serious. And important for me as the chief to flag for City Council, given the municipality's legal obligation under the Police Service Act to deliver adequate, effective policing services.
Chief, could just clarify a response you gave to Councillor Sachs, who asked about the effect of this budget on patrols in her community, and you said that those would be reduced as a result of this budget. Was that a specific reference to the police response to the protests that have been happening recently because of the war in the Middle East, or you're saying just community policing in general will be reduced?
Well, I can't remember the specifics of her question to that granularity. I'll say this, that the discussions we're having are about resourcing the Toronto Police Service. And one of the things that's very important for us to deliver adequate, effective policing services is to have some element of crime prevention and proactive policing. And the ability to do that is definitely challenged when we're not resourced the way we need to be.
Chief, for the average person, then, what would not getting this nearly $13 million mean for someone at home watching?
Over time, they will see a continued degradation in police service response. We're presently at over 22 minutes in responding to priority 1 calls in the city, which really, to humanize this a little bit, is when people call us under the most grave of circumstances where they're fearing the most significant harm or imminent injury. When we are required to attend, it's taking us on average now over 22 minutes. Over time, we will see a continued degradation in that capacity.
So in your mind, with this $13 million, lower that 22-minute response time?
It'll help us work towards stabilizing and hopefully improving our core service delivery capacity. But there's other programs that certainly are suffering presently due to the constraints we have on resources.
But Chief, last year you were at this committee, you got an increase in your budget, but you couldn't really say whether that increase would bring down response times. How can you be certain that if you got what you're asking for this year, it would do that?
Well, I will tell you that I can't say with greatest of certainty that it will. It'll certainly give us the capacity to work towards that. What is important also to recognize, this city continues to grow at an unprecedented rate. In fact, we had an 18% increase in calls into our emergency center. So this is a workload that continues to grow and grow and grow, while we are not able to reconstitute our capacity at the pace that we need to keep up with the growth of our amazing city.
At the same time, though, the city is focusing more on services and trying to get money back into services, particularly social services. Will that not take some of the strain off the police department to really just see the areas that need to be, that perhaps that even you're not equipped to handle?
I think that's a really important point, and I appreciate the opportunity to discuss that a bit. We are focusing certainly on core service delivery, our emergency response, but we have been a long-standing partner in a multi-sectoral response to all things that we deal with in the policing sector and in the public safety or community safety and well-being space. So we very much agree that there's a need for a multi-sectoral response to help deal with things that are impacting criminality and the propensity for criminality in our city. But we are right now really focused on the core services, which is people need our help. They need us to get there quickly. And frankly, Torontonians don't need a lesson in patience waiting for the police to come when they need them the most.
Chief, this is your first budget with this new mayor. Can you talk about your relationship with Mayor Chow and whether you've had conversations with her since you found out you weren't going to get the full $20 million you wanted?
So listen, I meet with the mayor regularly. I speak to the mayor regularly, and I remain committed as a servant of this city and as a partner in community safety well-being with our city, and that includes with our mayor. And I certainly understand the challenges we're facing as a city. I'm a lifetime resident in this city and a 34-year police officer in this city, so I can appreciate how we got here today and the challenges this city faces. And I remain committed to working with Mayor Chow at every turn we can to ensure the well-being of our city, including the delivery of adequate, effective policing services.
So, Chief, if you got 20 million this year, could you?
Busy week at City Hall. Toronto police are looking for a $20 million increase to its approved budget. There's Police Chief Myron Demkiw speaking with reporters. City Hall says that is likely not going to happen as it faces its own budgetary pressures. Chief Demkiw says if the force does not receive the $20 million it's been looking for, that would impact service, staffing levels, and it would also increase police response times.